The rain hammered against Sarah's kitchen window as she stared at the divorce papers spread across her marble countertop. 3 years of marriage, and it had come to this. The ink wasn't even dry on David's signature, but somehow, seeing it there in black and white made everything devastatingly real. She had suspected the affair for months, catching glimpses of secret phone calls and unexplained late nights, but discovering the truth had shattered her world completely. The doorbell's sharp chime cut through the storm's fury, making Sarah jump. She wasn't expecting anyone, especially not at 9:30 on a Tuesday night. Through the peephole, she saw a tall figure hunched against the rain, face obscured by shadows and the dim porch light. Her heart raced as she hesitated, hand hovering over the deadbolt. Living alone had made her cautious, particularly after everything with David. When she finally opened the door, keeping the chain lock engaged, she found herself looking into the most striking green eyes she had ever seen. The man was soaked to the bone, dark hair plastered against his forehead, and clutching a manila envelope against his chest like it contained his life's secrets. Sarah Mitchell? His voice was deep, careful, with just a hint of an accent she couldn't place. It's Sarah Chen now. I changed it back. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. Who are you? My name is Marcus. He shifted uncomfortably, water dripping from his expensive-looking coat onto her welcome mat. I need to talk to you about your husband. Ex-husband, she corrected sharply. And whatever David owes you, that's between you and him. Marcus shook his head slowly. Ma'am, I think there's been a misunderstanding. David Mitchell was my brother. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Sarah's grip on the door loosened as she processed his words. That's impossible. David doesn't have a brother. His parents died when he was 12. He was an only child. That's what he told you. Marcus's expression was pained, almost apologetic. May I come in? This isn't the kind of conversation for a doorstep. Against every instinct screaming at her to slam the door, Sarah found herself stepping aside. Marcus entered slowly, respectfully, taking in the elegant but clearly disrupted living space. Moving boxes sat stacked in corners, and family photos lay scattered across the coffee table, some with David's face already torn away. You're moving, he observed. Tomorrow. Sarah wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly conscious of her pajamas and tear-stained face. I can't stay in this house anymore. Too many memories. Marcus nodded understanding. I'm sorry about David. Don't be. He made his choice when he decided to sleep with his secretary. The bitterness in her voice surprised even her. Sarah. Marcus turned to face her fully, and she saw something in his eyes that made her stomach clench. David wasn't having an affair. A harsh laugh escaped her throat. Right, I suppose all those hotel receipts and phone calls were just my imagination. The hotel receipts were for me. Marcus opened the envelope he'd been clutching and pulled out a stack of papers. David was trying to help me disappear. Sarah's breath caught. Disappear from what? From people who wanted me dead. Marcus's voice was quiet, matter of fact, as if you were discussing the weather. David and I weren't supposed to exist after our parents' accident. We were separated, put into different foster systems, given different last names. I found him 2 years ago. The room felt like it was spinning. Sarah sank onto her couch, staring at this stranger who claimed to be her husband's brother. This is insane. You expect me to believe some conspiracy theory? Marcus sat across from her, careful to maintain distance. Our father wasn't just an accountant like David told you. He worked for some very dangerous people, and when he tried to get out, they made sure he never could. David was 14, I was 16. We were supposed to disappear too, but someone in witness protection had a conscience. He handed her a photograph. 2 teenage boys stood side by side, and even in the faded color, she could see David's familiar smile on the younger one's face. The older boy had Marcus's distinctive green eyes. I've been running for 18 years, Marcus continued. But last month, they found me. David was helping me get new documents, a new identity. All those meetings you thought were affairs were actually him risking everything to save my life. Sarah's hands trembled as she studied the photo. The resemblance was undeniable. Then why didn't he tell me? Why all the secrecy? Because he was protecting you. Marcus's voice was gentle now. He knew that if you knew about me, you'd become a target too. David loved you more than his own life, Sarah. Everything he did was to keep you safe." Tears she thought she'd already cried out began flowing again. "But I left him. I filed for divorce. I said terrible things. He understood. David called me the night you moved out. He was heartbroken, but he said at least you were safe. That was all that mattered to him." Sarah looked up sharply. Why are you talking about him in past tense?" Marcus's face went pale. "Sarah, David is dead. They found him 3 days ago." The envelope slipped from her numb fingers, papers scattering across the hardwood floor. No, that's not possible. I just saw him last week at the lawyer's office. I'm so sorry." Marcus leaned forward, his own eyes bright with unshed tears. "He was trying to meet me at a safe house outside the city. They were waiting for him." The room filled with Sarah's broken sobs as the full weight of her loss hit her. Not just her marriage, but David himself. And the terrible knowledge that she had spent his final weeks believing the worst about him. "There's more," Marcus said quietly once her crying had subsided. "They think you know where I am. David protected you as long as he could, but now that he's gone, they're going to come looking for answers." Fear cut through her grief like ice water. "What kind of answers?" "They believe David told you everything. About me, about where I was hiding, about the evidence our father hid before he died." Marcus stood, beginning to pace. "You're in danger, Sarah. Real danger. But I don't know anything. David never told me about any of this. I know that, and you know that, but they don't." Marcus stopped in front of the window, peering carefully through the blinds. "We need to leave. Tonight." "Leave and go where?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "Somewhere they'll never find us." Marcus turned back to her, and for the first time, she saw something other than fear in his expression. There was determination there, and something else. Something that made her pulse quicken despite everything. David made me promise that if anything happened to him, I would protect you. I intend to keep that promise." Marcus extended his hand to her. "I know this is overwhelming, and I know you have no reason to trust me. But Sarah, if you stay here, you'll be dead by morning." Through the window, headlights swept across the driveway. Marcus tensed, his hand moving instinctively to his jacket. "They're here," he whispered urgently. "We have to go, now." Sarah looked at the divorce papers on her counter, at the photos of her shattered life scattered on the floor, then at this mysterious man who claimed to be her husband's brother. Everything she thought she knew had been a lie, but somehow, looking into Marcus's eyes, she felt the first flicker of truth she'd experienced in months. She took his hand. As they slipped out the back door into the storm, Sarah realized that sometimes the end of one story was just the beginning of another. And sometimes, the stranger at your door wasn't there to destroy your life, but to save it.